Have you ever witnessed someone stand up for you when no one else would? Today, I'm going to tell you the incredible true story of Zara Mitchell, a 29-year-old art gallery curator who thought she had finally escaped her abusive ex-boyfriend. But when he showed up at her workplace 3 months after their breakup, refusing to accept that it was over, Zara discovered that her regular customer, the quiet man who came in every Tuesday to look at paintings, was actually Marco Valentini, one of the most powerful Mafia bosses in the city. And when Marco saw what was happening, he walked over, put himself between Zara and her ex, and said 8 words that would change everything. Break her heart, and I break your spine. What happened next involves protection, passion, healing from trauma, and a love story that proves sometimes the most dangerous man in the room is exactly the hero you need. So buckle up, because this story will leave you believing in second chances and the transformative power of someone who sees your worth when you've forgotten it yourself. Zara Mitchell had always believed that art could heal. That's what drew her to work at the Meridian Gallery in the first place. 3 months ago, she had walked away from a 2-year relationship that had slowly stolen her confidence, her joy, and nearly her life. Derek Hammond had seemed perfect at first, charming, successful, attentive, but beneath that polished exterior had been a man who couldn't handle the word no, who saw Zara as property rather than partner, who had gradually isolated her from friends and family until she was completely dependent on him. The breaking point had come on a cold January night, when Derek's anger had escalated from verbal abuse to physical violence. Zara had ended up in the emergency room with a broken wrist and bruised ribs, and for the first time, she had been honest with the doctors about how it happened. They had helped her file a police report, connected her with a domestic violence advocate, and given her the resources to leave. Leaving had been the hardest thing she had ever done. Derek had money, connections, and a lawyer who made the restraining order process feel like a battle. But Zara had persisted, moved to a new apartment, changed her phone number, and tried to rebuild her life one day at a time. The Meridian Gallery had been her sanctuary. It was a small, elegant space in an upscale neighborhood, specializing in contemporary artists and local talent. The owner, an elderly woman named Ruth, had hired Zara despite her gaps in employment and had asked no questions about the fading bruises she covered with makeup. The work was peaceful, surrounded by beauty and creativity, and most days Zara could almost forget the nightmare she had escaped. One of her favorite parts of the job was the regular customers. There was the elderly couple who came in every Friday to debate which pieces they liked best, the young woman who was slowly building a collection for her first apartment, and the quiet man who came in every Tuesday afternoon at exactly 3 o'clock. Zara had noticed him the first week she started working. He was tall, probably 6 feet 2 inches, with dark hair that was always perfectly styled and olive skin that suggested Mediterranean heritage. He dressed impeccably in tailored suits that probably cost more than Zara's monthly rent, but it was his eyes that caught her attention. Dark brown, intense, and somehow both warm and guarded at the same time. He never bought anything. He just walked slowly through the gallery, studying each piece with genuine interest, occasionally asking Zara thoughtful questions about the artists or techniques. His voice was deep and slightly accented, Italian maybe, and he was unfailingly polite. After 6 weeks, Zara had started to look forward to Tuesdays. She had learned his name was Marco. He owned several businesses in the city, though he was vague about the details. He appreciated bold colors and abstract expressionism. He had grown up in Sicily but had lived in America for 15 years, and he had a way of looking at Zara that made her feel truly seen for the first time in years. Zara told herself it was just a harmless crush. Marco was clearly wealthy and sophisticated, probably way out of her league, and she wasn't ready for anything romantic anyway. She was still healing, still learning to trust her own judgment again. But she couldn't deny that Marco made her feel safe in a way she couldn't quite explain. It was a Tuesday in late March when everything changed. Zara was arranging a new exhibit in the back gallery when she heard the front door chime. She glanced at her watch. 3 o'clock exactly. Marco was nothing if not punctual. But when she walked out to greet him, she froze. Standing in the middle of the gallery was Derek. He looked the same as always. Expensive suit, perfectly groomed, handsome in that corporate shark way that had first attracted her. But Zara could see the anger simmering beneath his controlled expression, the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. "Zara," he said, his voice carrying that false warmth she had learned to fear. "I've been looking everywhere for you. You need to leave," Zara said, hating how her voice shook. "You're violating the restraining order. That restraining order is bullshit, and you know it. You overreacted about one little argument, and now you're hiding from me like a child." Derek took a step closer. "We need to talk. You need to stop this nonsense and come home." "I'm not coming home." "We're done, Derek. Please just leave." "I'm not leaving until you listen to reason." Another step closer. Do you know how embarrassing this has been for me? My colleagues asking where you are, having to explain that my girlfriend had some kind of breakdown and ran away. I didn't have a breakdown. You broke my wrist. Zara backed toward the desk where her phone was, but Derek moved to block her path. That was an accident and you know it. You provoked me. You always provoke me. And then you act like I'm some kind of monster. His voice was rising now, the charming mask slipping. You think you can just walk away from me? From us? After everything I've done for you? Mr. Hammond, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Ruth had emerged from her office, her elderly voice surprisingly firm. You're disturbing my employee and my gallery. Derek barely glanced at her. This is a private conversation. Mind your own business, old woman. I've already called the police. They'll be here in minutes. Good. Then I can explain to them how my girlfriend is having a mental health crisis and needs help. Derek reached for Zara's arm, and she flinched back so hard she knocked over a display of brochures. Don't touch me. Stop being dramatic. I just want to talk to you. Is that so unreasonable? Derek's fingers closed around her wrist, the same wrist he had broken 3 months ago, and Zara felt panic rising in her throat. Let go of her. The voice cut through the gallery like a blade. Derek turned, his grip on Zara's wrist loosening slightly, to see Marco standing in the doorway. He must have entered during the confrontation, and now he stood perfectly still, his dark eyes locked on Derek's hand around Zara's wrist. This is a private conversation, Derek said with the dismissive tone he used for people he considered beneath him. Move along. Marco took 3 steps forward, moving with a fluid grace that was somehow predatory. I will say this once. Let go of her. Now. Something in Marco's voice made Derek release Zara's wrist. She stumbled back, rubbing the red marks his fingers had left on her skin. Who the hell are you? Derek demanded. Someone who does not appreciate seeing women threatened in public. Marco positioned himself between Derek and Zara, and despite being roughly the same height as her ex, Marco somehow seemed much larger. You will leave. You will not come back. And you will not contact Zara again. This is not a request. Derek laughed, but it sounded forced. Or what? You'll call the cops? She's my girlfriend. I have every right. She is not your girlfriend. She is a woman you abused who has a restraining order against you. And if you do not leave right now, I will make you leave. And you will not enjoy the experience. Are you threatening me? Derek's face flushed red. Do you know who I am? I'm a partner at Harrison and Locke. I have lawyers who will bury you if you lay a hand on me. I am not threatening you. Marco's voice dropped lower, colder. I am making you a promise. You have 2 choices. Walk out of here now and never come near Zara again, or I will break every bone in your body, starting with the hand you used to grab her. The gallery had gone completely silent. Even Ruth had stopped moving, staring at Marco, with wide eyes. Derek looked like he wanted to say something, but whatever he saw in Marco's face made him think better of it. This isn't over, Derek said, but he was already backing toward the door. Zara, you can't hide from me forever. You belong to me, and sooner or later, you'll remember that. Break her heart again, Marco said quietly, and I will break your spine. And unlike your lawyers, I do not make empty threats. I make promises, and I always keep my promises. Derek's face went pale. He looked at Marco, then at Zara, and whatever he saw made him finally leave, the door chiming as it closed behind him. The silence that followed was deafening. Zara realized she was shaking, adrenaline flooding her system. Ruth rushed over to put an arm around her shoulders. Are you all right, dear? Should I still call the police? Yes. We should file a report that he violated the restraining order. Zara's voice sounded strange to her own ears, thin and distant. Marco turned to face her, and the coldness in his eyes melted into concern. Sit down before you fall down, he said gently, guiding her to a chair near the desk. Ruth, perhaps some water? As Ruth bustled away, Marco crouched in front of Zara, his dark eyes searching her face. Has he done this before? Come to your work? No. This is the first time since I left him. Zara's hands were still shaking, and she clasped them together to hide it. I don't know how he found me. I've been so careful. Men like him always find a way. They are predators who do not give up their prey easily. Marco's jaw tightened. But he will not bother you again. I will make sure of it. You can't promise that. You don't even know me. Not really. Why would you put yourself in the middle of this? Marco was quiet for a moment, studying her face with an intensity that made Zara's breath catch. Because I have watched you for 6 weeks, he said finally. Every Tuesday, I come here, and I see a woman who is rebuilding herself piece by piece. I see someone who finds beauty in art, who is kind to strangers, who lights up when she talks about the artists she loves. And today, I saw that woman being terrorized by a man who should be grateful she is even alive after what he did to her. How did you know? The way you flinched when he reached for your wrist. The way your hand went to your ribs when you backed away. The healing scars I have noticed you trying to hide." Marco's voice was gentle, but his eyes were hard. "I recognize the signs. I have seen them before." Ruth returned with water and a blanket, which she draped around Zara's shoulders even though it wasn't cold. "The police are on their way," she said. "I told them it was an emergency." The next hour was a blur of police reports and witness statements. Ruth described the confrontation. Zara explained about the restraining order and Derek's history of abuse. And Marco, who Zara learned was Marco Valentini, gave a statement that was calm, detailed, and somehow made it clear that Derek had been lucky to leave with all his bones intact. The officers took Derek's information and promised to follow up on the restraining order violation. They also suggested Zara consider additional security measures, given Derek's wealth and connections. After they left, Zara sat in the empty gallery with Ruth and Marco, feeling exhausted and strangely exposed. "I should probably go home," she said, though the thought of being alone in her apartment suddenly seemed terrifying. "I will drive you," Marco said. "You don't have to." "I know I do not have to. But I am going to." He said it with such certainty that Zara didn't bother arguing. Ruth insisted Zara take the rest of the day off and not worry about coming in the next day if she needed time. As Marco led her to his car, a sleek black Mercedes parked down the street. Zara felt like she was moving through a dream. "Where do you live?" Marco asked once they were both settled in the car. Zara gave him the address, and he pulled into traffic with the easy confidence of someone who was always in control. They drove in silence for several minutes before Zara finally spoke. "You scared him. Derek doesn't scare easily, but you scared him." "How?" Marco glanced at her, then back at the road. "Because he recognized what I am. Men like Derek Hammond are bullies. They prey on people they perceive as weaker than themselves. But when they meet someone truly dangerous, someone who operates by different rules than their lawyers and their money, they fold. Because deep down, they are cowards." "And what are you, Marco?" What did he recognize? Marco was quiet for a long moment. "I am someone who has lived in a world where actions have immediate and permanent consequences. I am someone who does not make threats he cannot back up. And I am someone who has no patience for men who hurt women." It wasn't really an answer, but Zara understood what he wasn't saying. Marco was dangerous in a way Derek could only pretend to be. Marco was someone who operated outside the normal rules of society, someone who could make problems disappear in ways that didn't involve lawyers and police reports. "You're in the Mafia," Zara said, surprising herself with how calmly she said it. Marco's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "That is a dramatic word. I prefer to say I have business interests that require a certain level of discretion and security. But I'm not wrong." "No," Marco admitted. "You are not wrong. Does this frighten you?" Zara thought about it. She should be frightened. She should ask to get out of the car right now. But instead, all she felt was a strange sense of relief. He threatened to break Derek's spine. "Derek understood you meant it. And I'm glad. Does that make me a terrible person?" "It makes you human. You have been terrorized by a man who should have protected you. It is natural to want someone to make him stop. Can you make him stop? Really?" Marco pulled up in front of her apartment building and put the car in park. He turned to face her, his dark eyes serious. "Yes, if you want me to." "What would that involve? What would you do?" "Nothing illegal, if that concerns you. I have resources and connections that Derek Hammond does not have access to. I can make it clear to him that continuing to pursue you will have consequences that his money and lawyers cannot protect him from. I can ensure you are safe." "Why would you do this for me? We barely know each other." Marco reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently tucked a loose curl behind her ear. His touch was warm and careful, nothing like Derek's grabbing hands. "Because you deserve to be safe. Because you deserve to live without fear. And because..." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Because for 6 weeks, Tuesday has been the best day of my week, and I would like the opportunity to know you better, when you are not looking over your shoulder for a man who should be in prison." Zara's breath caught. "Marco, I am not asking for anything from you," he said quickly. "I am not trying to trade protection for anything. Whether you want to see me again or not, I will still make sure Derek leaves you alone, because it is the right thing to do." "I want to see you again," Zara heard herself say. "I've looked forward to Tuesdays too. But I'm not ready for anything serious. I'm still healing from everything Derek put me through. Then we will take our time. We will have coffee and talk about art. We will go to museums and galleries. We will be friends, and if someday you want more than that, we will discuss it. But there is no pressure, Zara. Only protection and patience." It was the most honest, respectful offer anyone had made her in years. "Okay," Zara said. "Friends." And protection. Friends and protection, Marco agreed. He got out of the car and walked around to open her door, then escorted her to her apartment building entrance. I will have someone watching the building tonight, just to be safe. If Derek comes here, they will call me immediately. You really think he'll try again? Men like Derek do not give up easily. But after tonight, after he has had time to think about what I said, he will understand that pursuing you further would be a mistake. Marco waited until she was safely inside before leaving. Zara watched from her window as his Mercedes pulled away. And for the first time in months, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope. The next morning, Zara woke to find that Derek's social media accounts had been suspended. By noon, there were rumors circulating online that Harrison and Locke was investigating one of their partners for ethics violations. By the evening, Derek had left 3 voicemails on Zara's old phone number, the one he somehow still had access to, each one more panicked than the last. What did you do? What did you tell them? They're saying I falsified billing records, that I've been embezzling from clients. This is insane. You need to tell them this is a mistake. Zara, please, you have to help me. Zara deleted the voicemails and blocked the number. Whatever Marco had done, it had been swift and effective. Derek was too busy trying to save his own career to worry about harassing his ex-girlfriend. Marco texted her that evening. Are you all right? Has he contacted you? He called my old number, Zara replied. Sounded panicked about work stuff. What did you do? I simply made sure certain information reached the right people. Information that was always true, but had been conveniently overlooked. Men like Derek always have secrets. They just need the right motivation to have them exposed. Thank you. I don't know what to say. You do not need to say anything. Have dinner with me tomorrow. Not a date, just friends. There is an Italian restaurant I would like. Zara hesitated only a moment before replying. I'd like that. Over the next 2 weeks, Zara saw Marco 4 times. They had dinner at the Italian restaurant, where the staff treated him with a deference that confirmed he was definitely more than just a successful businessman. They visited a contemporary art museum, where Marco revealed a surprisingly deep knowledge of post-war American painters. They had coffee at a small cafe where Marco knew the owner and insisted on buying Zara a box of handmade chocolates to take home. And they took a long walk through the park, talking about everything and nothing. Marco was true to his word. He never pushed for more than friendship. He never tried to touch her beyond gentle, courteous gestures. He asked questions about her life and listened with genuine interest to her answers. And slowly, Zara felt herself relaxing around him, letting down the walls she had built during her relationship with Derek. She learned that Marco was 36 years old, 7 years older than her. He had come to America from Sicily when he was 21, following his older brother who had established business interests in the city. When his brother had died in a car accident 5 years ago, Marco had taken over the family operations and had worked hard to make them both profitable and as legitimate as possible. My brother, he believed in the old ways, Marco explained one evening over wine. Violence and intimidation, territory wars, the whole cliché. But I believe there is a better path. Yes, I still operate in gray areas. I still have connections and methods that would not survive scrutiny. But I try to build rather than destroy, to protect rather than exploit. Like you protected me from Derek. Exactly. I use my resources and influence to help people who cannot help themselves, to stop predators from hurting the innocent. It is not perfect, and I am certainly not a good man by most standards. But I try to be better than I was raised to be. I think you're a good man, Zara said quietly. A good man who has to make difficult choices. Marco smiled, and it transformed his whole face. You are kind to say so, but you have not seen all of me yet. Maybe I'd like to. Something shifted between them in that moment. Marco reached across the table and took her hand, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a gesture that was both tender and electrifying. Zara, I need to be honest with you about something, he said. These past 2 weeks, spending time with you, they have been some of the happiest of my life. I know we agreed to take things slowly, to just be friends, but I need you to know that I have feelings for you, real feelings that go beyond friendship or protection. Zara's heart was racing. Marco, I am not asking you to reciprocate, he continued. I am not asking you to be ready for something you are not ready for. I just need you to know that when you are ready, if you are ever ready, I am here. I will wait as long as you need. What if I'm never ready? What if Derek damaged me too much? Marco's grip on her hand tightened. He did not damage you. He hurt you, yes. He stole time and joy and peace from you. But you are not damaged, Zara. You are strong and beautiful and whole, and any fear or hesitation you feel is normal and valid. You do not owe anyone your trust, especially not after what you survived. Tears pricked at Zara's eyes. How do you always know the right thing to say? Because I see you. Really see you. Not who Derek tried to make you, or who you think you should be, but who you actually are. And that woman is remarkable. Zara took a shaky breath. I have feelings for you too. I have for weeks. But I'm scared, Marco. I'm scared of making another mistake, of trusting the wrong person again, of ending up back where I was. That will not happen. How can you be so sure? Because I would never hurt you. Not in anger, not in jealousy, not for any reason. Because I respect you too much to ever try to control or diminish you. And because if I ever did hurt you, even accidentally, I would walk away before I let it happen again. You have my word, Zara, and I always keep my word. It was exactly what Zara needed to hear. She stood, pulling Marco up with her. Take me home, Zara. Not to sleep with you. Not yet. But to kiss you. Because I'm tired of being afraid, and I'm tired of letting Derek steal any more of my happiness. I want to kiss you, Marco Valentini. And I don't want to wait anymore. Marco paid the check faster than Zara had ever seen anyone pay a check, and they drove to her apartment in charged silence. At her door, Zara turned to face him, her heart pounding. Are you sure? Marco asked, his dark eyes searching hers. We do not have to rush this. I'm sure. Kiss me. Marco cupped her face in his hands, his touch achingly gentle, and kissed her. It was nothing like kissing Derek. There was no possessiveness, no demand for control. It was tender and sweet and full of barely restrained passion, a kiss that asked rather than took, that offered rather than demanded. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marco rested his forehead against hers. You are incredible, he murmured. So are you. I should go, before I lose what little control I have. Marco? Yes? Thank you. For everything. For protecting me. For being patient. For seeing me. Always. Marco promised, kissing her forehead. I will always protect you. Over the next month, their relationship deepened. They saw each other several times a week, mixing dinners and museum visits with quiet nights at Zara's apartment watching movies. The physical side of their relationship progressed slowly, with Marco always letting Zara set the pace and never pushing for more than she was ready to give. It was healing in a way Zara hadn't expected. Every gentle touch, every patient kiss, every moment of Marco respecting her boundaries helped undo some of the damage Derek had done. She learned to trust her instincts again, to believe that her no would be respected, to understand that love didn't have to hurt. She also learned more about Marco's world. He was always honest with her about his business, never lying or sugarcoating what he did. He owned several restaurants and clubs, ran security for high-end clients, and had investments in various import-export businesses. Some of it was completely legitimate. Some of it existed in legal gray areas. And some of it, he admitted, was outright illegal. I am working to make things more legitimate, he told her. My brother left me an empire built on violence and exploitation. I am trying to transform it into something better. But it takes time, and there are people who resist change. Is it dangerous? Your work? Sometimes. But I am careful, and I have good people around me. People I trust. I worry about you. Marco smiled and pulled her close. No one has worried about me in a very long time. It is nice. Derek, meanwhile, had become a non-issue. The ethics investigation at his firm had resulted in his suspension, and rumors suggested he would be fired soon. He had stopped trying to contact Zara entirely, either because Marco's warning had sunk in or because he was too busy trying to save his career. Zara had started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could finally move on with her life. The crisis came on a Tuesday in May. Zara was at the gallery, helping Ruth set up a new exhibit, when her phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something made her answer. Zara Mitchell. The voice was crisp, professional, female. Yes? This is Detective Sarah Chen with the Metro Police. I'm calling about Derek Hammond. Is this a good time to talk? Zara's stomach dropped. What about Derek? Did he violate the restraining order again? No, Miss Mitchell. Mr. Hammond was found dead in his apartment this morning. Given your history and the previous restraining order, we need to ask you some questions. Can you come to the station? The room spun. Zara gripped the edge of the desk to steady herself. Dead? How? We're still investigating the circumstances. Can you come to the station today? Yes, I'll come now. After she hung up, Zara stood frozen, trying to process what she'd just heard. Derek was dead. The man who had terrorized her, who had broken her bones and her spirit, was dead. She should feel relieved. She should feel safe. But all she felt was numb shock, and underneath that, a terrible suspicion. She called Marco. He answered on the first ring. Bella, what is wrong? You sound upset. Derek is dead. The police want to question me. Silence on the other end of the line. Marco, where are you? His voice was carefully controlled. At the gallery. I'm about to go to the police station. I will meet you there. Do not speak to them until I arrive. I will bring my lawyer. Marco, did you? We will discuss this later, not on the phone. I will see you soon. He hung up before she could say anything else. The next several hours were surreal. Marco arrived at the police station with a lawyer who looked like he charged $1,000 an hour. Detective Chen asked Zara about her relationship with Derek, about the abuse, about the restraining order violation at the gallery. She asked where Zara had been the night before, who she had been with, if she had any contact with Derek since the incident at the gallery. Zara answered honestly. She had been home alone, no witnesses. She had not contacted Derek or had any contact with him. She had no idea how he died or who might have wanted to hurt him. When they were finally allowed to leave, Marco drove her back to her apartment, in tense silence. Inside, Zara turned to face him, her heart pounding. Tell me you didn't kill him. Marco's expression was unreadable. I did not kill him, but you know who did. I know many things, Zara. What specifically are you asking? Did you order his death? Did you have him killed because of what he did to me? Marco walked to her window, looking out at the city. Derek Hammond had many enemies. His ethics violations at the law firm went deeper than anyone knew. He had been stealing from clients for years, ruining people's lives to fund his expensive lifestyle. When that information became public, there were several people who had reason to want him dead. That's not an answer. It is the only answer I can give you. Marco turned to face her. What do you want me to say, Zara? Do you want me to tell you that I orchestrated his death? Do you want to hear that I had him killed because he dared to hurt you? What good would that confession do? It would tell me the truth. The truth is complicated. The truth is that Derek Hammond died because his actions had consequences. Because he hurt too many people and, eventually someone decided he needed to pay. Whether I was involved or not, would it change how you feel about me? Zara sank onto her couch, her hands shaking. I don't know. I hate that he's dead. I hate that I feel relieved he's dead. And I hate that I might be falling in love with a man who might have ordered his murder. Marco crossed the room and knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his. I will tell you this, and only this. I promised you that Derek would never hurt you again. I promised you that I would keep you safe, and I always keep my promises. Even if it means killing someone, I have killed before, Zara. I will probably kill again. That is the world I live in, but I have never killed anyone who did not deserve it, who was not a threat to innocent people. And I would never ask you to condone or approve of the things I do to keep you safe. That burden is mine alone to carry. You can't protect me from everything. You can't just kill everyone who hurts me. No, I cannot. But I can protect you from the truly dangerous ones. The ones who would not stop. Who would not be deterred by restraining orders or ethics investigations. Derek Hammond was that kind of dangerous. He would have kept coming for you until one of you was dead. I simply ensured it was not you. Zara wanted to be horrified. She wanted to tell Marco to leave, to never speak to her again. But she couldn't. Because part of her, the part that had lived in fear for 2 years, that had counted bruises and made excuses and wondered if Derek would eventually kill her, that part was glad Derek was gone. I need time, she said finally. I need to think about all of this, about what it means to be with you, about whether I can accept your world. Take all the time you need. I will be here when you are ready. Marco stood, but Zara caught his hand. Don't go, please. I don't want to be alone tonight. I will stay. Whatever you need. They spent that night curled up on her couch, not talking much, just holding each other. Marco stroked her hair and whispered Italian words she didn't understand but found comforting anyway. And Zara tried to process everything that had happened, everything she felt, everything she feared. By morning, she had made her decision. I want to be with you, she told Marco as he made them coffee in her small kitchen. I want to build a life with you, but I need you to understand something. What is that? I can accept that you live in a dangerous world. I can accept that you sometimes have to make terrible choices to protect people. But I need you to promise me that you will never lie to me. If you do something violent, if you hurt someone, I need you to be honest about it. I don't need all the details, but I need to know who you really are. Marco set down the coffee pot and turned to face her. I can promise you that. Honesty, even when it is difficult. And I need you to understand that I might not always agree with your choices. I might be angry, or upset, or conflicted, and you have to accept that too. I do understand, and I accept it. Okay then. Zara took a deep breath. I love you. Marco Valentini. I don't know when it happened or how, but I do. I love you. Marco crossed the kitchen in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms, kissing her with a passion that made her knees weak. When they broke apart, his eyes were intense. I love you too, Zara Mitchell, more than I have ever loved anyone. You are my heart, my conscience, my reason for trying to be better than I was. I will spend the rest of my life proving to you that you made the right choice. You already have, Zara said. You already have. Derek's death was ruled a suicide. Apparently, facing the end of his career and potential prison time for embezzlement had been too much for him. The official report said he had overdosed on sleeping pills. There was no investigation, no follow-up questions. The case was closed within a week. Zara knew the truth was more complicated than that. But she also knew that some questions were better left unasked. Derek was gone, and she was finally, truly free. Over the next 6 months, Zara's relationship with Marco deepened and grew. She met his family, including his mother, who came from Sicily, and immediately fell in love with Zara. She was introduced to his business associates, learning to navigate the complicated world of his legitimate and less legitimate enterprises. She learned when to ask questions and when to trust that Marco was handling things. She also helped Marco with his efforts to transform his business. Her background in art led to connections with galleries and artists looking for legitimate patrons. She helped him establish a foundation that supported arts education in underserved communities. She became his partner not just in love but in building something better than what he had inherited. Marco, in turn, supported Zara's career ambitions. When the Meridian Gallery's owner Ruth decided to retire, Marco helped Zara buy the business, becoming a silent partner who provided funding but let her run things her way. The gallery thrived under her management, becoming known for discovering new talent and supporting emerging artists. He also made sure she never had to worry about safety. There were always guards nearby, though discreet enough that Zara could mostly forget they were there. Marco taught her self-defense, insisting she know how to protect herself even though he would always be there to protect her. And he made it clear to everyone in his world that Zara was untouchable, that anyone who threatened her would answer to him personally. You have made me soft, Marco told her one evening as they sat on his balcony overlooking the city. My associates say I am not as ruthless as I used to be. Is that a problem? No. It is an improvement. You make me want to be the man you deserve, not the man I was raised to be. You're already the man I deserve, Zara said, leaning her head on his shoulder. You're complicated and dangerous, and you make choices I don't always agree with. But you're also loyal and protective, and you see me in a way no one else ever has. You see me too, Bella. You see all of me, even the dark parts, and you love me anyway. That is a gift I never expected to receive. On a cold December evening, exactly 1 year after Derek had first showed up at the gallery, Marco took Zara back to the Meridian Gallery after hours. The space was dark except for small lights illuminating the artwork, creating an intimate, magical atmosphere. I have been thinking about timing, Marco said as they walked through the gallery hand in hand. About when the right moment is to ask important questions. What kind of questions? Marco stopped in front of a painting Zara particularly loved, an abstract piece full of bold reds and golds that seemed to glow in the dim light. A year ago, I walked into this gallery and saw a man threatening a woman who worked here. I intervened because it was the right thing to do. I did not know then that the woman would become the most important person in my life. Marco, let me finish. He turned to face her, taking both her hands. You have transformed me, Zara. You have made me want to be better, to build something good instead of just maintaining something powerful. You have given me hope and joy and a future worth fighting for. And I cannot imagine spending another day without you as my partner in every way. Marco got down on one knee, pulling a small box from his pocket. Zara Mitchell, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me, knowing all that I am and all that my world entails? Will you be my wife, my conscience, my heart? The diamond ring glittered in the low light, but Zara barely saw it. She was focused on Marco's face, on the vulnerability and hope in his dark eyes, on the way he was offering her everything he had. Yes, she said, pulling him to his feet and kissing him. Yes, I'll marry you. I'll be your wife and your partner and whatever else you need me to be. Marco slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her with a passion that made the whole world disappear. Thank you, he murmured against her lips. Thank you for taking a chance on a dangerous man. Thank you for being brave enough to break someone's spine for me, Zara said with a smile. I would break 1,000 spines for you. I would burn down the whole world if it meant keeping you safe. I know. That's what makes you both terrifying and perfect. They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony attended by close friends and family. Marco's mother cried through the whole thing. Ruth gave Zara away. And half of Marco's associates provided security while the other half got drunk at the reception. It wasn't the life Zara had imagined for herself when she was younger, but it was real and honest and full of love. Marco never pretended to be something he wasn't. He never hid his world from her or lied about the choices he had to make. And Zara never tried to change him. only to help him become the best version of himself. They built a life together that was equal parts art gallery, elegance, and underworld danger. They supported each other through difficult times and celebrated victories together. And every time Zara looked at the faded scar on her wrist, the reminder of what Derek had done to her, she remembered how Marco had stood between them and promised to break her ex's spine if he ever hurt her again. That promise, brutal as it was, had been the beginning of everything. It had been the moment Zara realized that protection didn't have to come from someone safe and predictable. Sometimes it came from someone dangerous who chose to use their power to defend rather than destroy. 2 years after their wedding, Zara stood in an empty lot, where Marco's foundation was breaking ground on a new, community arts center. It would provide free classes, studio space, and exhibition opportunities for young artists who couldn't afford traditional art education. Marco stood beside her, his arm around her waist, watching as the construction crew got to work. "We are building something good here," he said. "Something that will last beyond us." "We're building a lot of good things," Zara said, placing his hand on her still flat stomach. "Including this?" Marco's eyes widened. "You are pregnant?" 8 weeks. I wanted to be sure before I told you." The look of pure joy on Marco's face was something Zara would treasure forever. He picked her up and spun her around, laughing like a child. "We are having a baby. A little girl, I hope, with your beautiful eyes and fierce spirit. Or a little boy with your stubbornness and protective instincts," Zara countered. "Either way, they will be loved beyond measure. And protected. Always protected. I know they will be. With you as their father. How could they be anything but safe?" Marco set her down gently, his hands cradling her face. "I will give them everything I never had. Safety, stability, the freedom to choose their own path. And I will teach them that power is only meaningful when used to protect the weak, rather than exploit them. You're going to be an amazing father. I will try. With you beside me, I can be anything." That evening, as they drove home through the city, Marco had once ruled through fear, and now increasingly led through respect. Zara thought about the journey that had brought them here. It had started with violence and trauma, with a man who had tried to break her and another man who had promised to break anyone who hurt her. It had seemed so simple in that moment. Protection in exchange for nothing but the chance to get to know each other. A threat delivered with cold certainty that had sent her abuser running. A promise that had been the beginning of healing, but it had become so much more than that. It had become partnership, and love, and building a life that honored both their values. It had become art galleries and construction projects and a baby on the way. It had become two broken people finding wholeness in each other. The threat Marco had made that day in the gallery, brutal and final, had been an act of love even if neither of them had recognized it at the time. "Break her heart and I break your spine" wasn't just a warning to Derek. It was a promise to Zara that someone finally saw her pain, believed her story, and was willing to stand between her and anyone who would hurt her. That promise had set her free, and in freeing her, Marco had found his own freedom from the brutal legacy he'd inherited. Sometimes love begins with violence. Sometimes protection comes from dangerous places. Sometimes the person who saves you is someone the world would call a villain. But Zara had learned that the world's judgments didn't matter. What mattered was finding someone who saw your worth, respected your boundaries, and loved you enough to help you heal. Marco Valentini was dangerous, morally complex, and capable of terrible things, but he was also loyal, protective, and had chosen to use his power to build rather than destroy. He had taken a woman broken by abuse and helped her become whole again, not by fixing her but by seeing her strength and reflecting it back to her. And Zara had taken a man raised in violence and helped him find a better path, not by demanding he change but by loving him enough to want to change himself. Together, they had built something beautiful from the ashes of their pasts. And they would continue building, one day at a time, one choice at a time, always protecting each other and the love they had created. That's the story of Zara Mitchell and Marco Valentini. A love born from violence but built on respect, protection, and the transformative power of being truly seen. Their story proves that healing is possible after abuse, that dangerous people can choose to be protective instead of predatory, and that sometimes the most unlikely love stories have the happiest endings. Zara and Marco's relationship reminds us that strength comes in many forms, that standing up for someone can be an act of love, and that the right person will never ask you to be smaller to make them feel bigger. They built a life based on honesty about who they were, acceptance of each other's complexity, and a shared commitment to using their strengths to help rather than hurt. If this incredible story moved you, and you want to hear more amazing tales of protection, dangerous romance, and love that heals, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. We share new stories every week about real people who discovered that heroes come in unexpected packages, and that sometimes the person who saves you is the one everyone warned you about. What did you think of Zara and Marco's story? Have you Ever had someone stand up for you when no one else would? What would you do if you fell in love with someone dangerous but protective? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing how these stories resonate with your own experiences of love, protection, and healing. Remember, the right person will never try to control you, diminish you, or make you afraid. The right person will stand between you and danger and mean it when they promise to keep you safe. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.